Hello and welcome to your boot camp for how to use oil pastels. One of the things we're going to learn to do today is blending with oil pastels, and so first you may want to go ahead and set up your artistic space. You want to have some of those oil pastels. If you don't have those, you can substitute in crayons or colored pencils or markers, especially for those of you who are doing this at home. But why use pastels? Well, they're kind of like a crayon, but they are a little bit smoother and they blend really nicely when they are blended properly. And I'll show you how to do that in a little bit. So you want to start with your paper. You can start with a pencil, an eraser, just in case. Have your oil pastels on hand. You might even want to pull out some different oranges and some different greens just to see what you might end up using later. Okay, now before we start, we're going to be doing a pumpkin because it is fall and who doesn't love pumpkins? They're bumpy, they're big and round, they have wonderful organic shapes, so you can't really draw a pumpkin wrong because they all look so different. But one of the things I wanted to show you were these ridges, where you have the clear ridges and how they move around. So we're going to observe a little bit here. We're going to use our powers of observation. So some of them that are closer to you might be straight up and down and kind of oval shaped. Then as they start moving away from you, they kind of curve out. That kind of looks like the letter C. This side on the right kind of looks like the letter D. And then as you keep going from the center, they keep curving out and back in that C, D. Okay? You also want to think about the stems. They're these nice funky stems. You can have, sometimes they'll have some areas that are shaded. See how this side is a little bit darker than that side? And you have a little oval on the bottom. So you want to kind of pay attention to those shapes and those curves. This one, you'll see the same thing. You have a nice oval shape here in the middle. And then you have your lines that curve out. It's because it's turning away from you because it's a round one. And here, even on this one, you have one side in the stem that's lighter, and you have a darker side because of the shadow. So those are some things we want to keep in mind as we begin drawing our own. So your paper can go whichever way you want. So you might want to start by figuring out which side do I want my paper to go on. One thing that you can do is, as you're going, if I start moving too fast and you want to finish a step before moving on, feel free to press that pause button so that you can stop and go at your own pace. So to start my pumpkin, I'm going to start with that first shape that we noticed. I'm going to do a nice big oval. Now you notice I decided to go tall with this, so I may not be able to get a very wide pumpkin, but that's okay. It's going to be a tall, skinny pumpkin. And notice how big I drew it. We're going to be making a big pumpkin here. It's close up. It's going to be the main part of our picture, so we don't want any itty bitty pumpkins. Definitely should be able to see it bigger than your fist. Okay, so now I'm going to draw that first C shape on this side, second C or D shape on the right side, C on the left, D on the right. Now I can add a nice stem. I'm going to add an oval here on the end, bring it down, and I'm actually going to divide that space there so I know where my shadow can be and my light side can be. Now you can just keep adding segments to your pumpkin to your heart's consent, or you run out of paper. So I can keep adding another C shape and D shape. I think I'm going to add one more here on the outside. Now, here is where you might need, you're going to start with a yellow, so just go ahead and choose a yellow. And you might need to actually peel that yellow, because we're going to use the side of it, and we're going to begin to fill this space before we add anything else. And so I'm just going to use the side and color. Oops, it broke. It's okay. I can still use it. I'm going to add some of that great texture to the side. This is just about filling that space with a little bit of color to start off. And then that one can go back in the tray for the moment. Next, I'm going to take my dark orange, okay? The way this works best is if you take the dark colors and you use the lighter colors as a blender to help smooth it out. It doesn't work in reverse, so you always want to start with your darker colors. And I'm going to start here by adding some fencing. I'm going to kind of copycat my lines here, but I'm going to not go directly on the line. You can see I'm trying to stay a little bit to the inside. And as I go out, I'm even doing that space. What that's going to do is that's going to provide a space for the paper to show through a little bit, and it will also make it easier as we're outlining with black at the end. Now I'm going to pause here so that I can finish this step. You keep on working, and then I'll show you what it looks like when it's all done. Okay, I have all my pieces segmented. Now I'm ready to start coloring in some spots. And I'm only going to work on the outside here. I'm going to make sure that I leave some space in the middle. I'm also trying to stay inside of my fencing that I've put down. Do you see that? All right. Here's another spot where I am going to pause it so that I can finish this step. Save you some time, and you go ahead and complete the step as well. And there I have all of my oranges colored in. Now I'm ready to move up in my value of orange. So I started with this dark reddish orange. Now I can go to my regular orange here, and this is where you get to start blending and you get to see some of the blending. So I'm going to overlap. That means I'm coloring over my dark orange. And I'm coloring in a little bit farther, but you notice I still leave a little bit of space. And I'm going to follow that same process, still staying inside my fencing, overlapping to blend, coloring in a little bit of extra space, but still leaving a little space as I go. Here again, I'm going to pause so I can finish working on this step. You go ahead and complete this step, and then we'll both come back when you're ready. Okay, I've got all of it overlapped. You can kind of see my orange here, my red orange there, and I'm ready to go in with my final color. This time I'm going to go ahead and finish coloring in that last space, being sure to overlap. And I can color over the other colors as I go to help further blend them and smooth them out. Ooh, it's starting to look three-dimensional. Wonderful. And that step is done. Now we're ready to add some greens. So here with this one, I'm going to start in my darker area of my stem, and I'm going to go ahead and color that one in. Then I can take my lighter green. Oops, I did that backwards. So I'm going to color over and blend that, and to make this darker, I'm going to take an even darker green. And I'm going to go over. See how that just covered that up? And then I can take this dark green again on the end of my stem. Ooh, it looks three-dimensional. Now I can add in with whatever green I want. I can add in some swirly twirly vines. You can take them off the edge of your paper. And then down here in the very bottom is where I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to add some grass. So I'm going to use short sticks. Again, I can start with my darkest. I can overlap some of my pumpkin. And I can even add layers. So I'm kind of overlapping with the lines. I'm just adding little random grass strokes, because grass isn't just green. There's lots of different greens. You could even, if you wanted to really make it look like fall, add in some browns, because you know some of the grass is dying a little bit. It's gotten a little cold. I can go in with my bright green here and color over as I fill in. Oh, it's got such great texture. And yellow to finish it all off. Once that's done, I'm ready to outline my pumpkin in black. So this is where I need to get my black oil pastel or whatever media you're working in. And then this is where I go in between those fencing lines where that paper is still breathing. And I can take that black and outline those spots. And if you feel like you need to, you could always also take that orange and pull it out to that black line. Ooh, see how that blends that? And it really gives that a nice rounded appearance. Can't wait to see what yours look like. I'll have a picture for you when it's all done. Now we have this beautiful picture right here, and we're going to make it look a little bit aged. And here's how we're going to do this. You notice how I have something underneath me. I have a bit of folded newspaper. You could use a paper bag. You could use wax paper, something to kind of keep the oil from sinking through. Now this oil that we're talking about is just vegetable oil. It's just the stuff that your parents might use to cook something with. And I have a little bit poured in a dish. Now I also have a paper towel here that I'm going to dip into that. Look at that, soaking it up. And then I'm going to gently pet it, like petting a little kitten. I don't want to blend things too much, but it's going to kind of age that paper, and it's going to soak into it. So it's going to look very rustic, very fall. And I want to make sure I've gotten the whole thing. So I'm just making sure, very gently rubbing this. I might need to dip it a few times to make sure that I've got everything. And then we're going to have to let this dry because it's super shiny right now. I'm sure you can see that. I'm going to turn off my lights here. Oh, there we go. Now you can see that a little better. It kind of darkens the paper, makes it look a little more aged, very fall-like. So I hope you have a lot of fun with this. I can't wait to see what you get to do.